It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
And welcome, everybody, to our End of the Week podcast, the Daily Gun Show, Season 9, Episode 1690. So we're going to be taking a look at what went on this week with a focus on what our Second Amendment protects. And we've been doing this one for quite a while, even maybe 2-3 years of the weekly wrap-up. The goal is to take a look at what happened during the week. Again, the stuff that's focused on what our Second Amendment protects, and maybe a couple of gun-related things, and then put that list on as many places as possible to help out those people, those projects, those organizations. So that's what we call it, the weekly wrap-up, and we try to go live every day, and this is our Friday show. So we do it at midnight. I like to go live as opposed to the program shows, the scripted shows, and when you're going to go live, you have to pick a time. So figure, why not do it in the middle of the night when the people that are out doing all the stuff that gets taken for granted is getting done, all the driving, all the repairing, all the cleaning, all the midnight shifts or the overnight shifts. We know we have a lot of people in that situation that listen to the show, so might as well go live in the middle of the night. All right, so with that being said, welcome to everybody who joins us live. However, most people listen to this as a podcast, so we ask you to give us a thumb or a like or a heart or whatever it happens to be on that platform. There's lots of different podcast platforms out there. We get distributed on most of them, so give us that indication that you appreciate the show. It really helps us with the distribution. It helps the podcast platforms know to recommend us to people like yourself. So we appreciate that favor. It costs nothing. Now, we also want to thank our Patreons, the people that subscribe to what we do. You won't see any ads or plugs or anything, but it's our Patreons that make it possible for me to spend the time on this, and for us to spend or for us to provide they provide the servers that run the websites, and then the countless hours that we've spent creating content over the years. So let's get on with the show. Eduardo is out there. Hola. Let's dig in. We're going to talk about some Second Amendment stuff. We're going to talk about some news of the week. I don't have very much of that this week, although quite a bit of things did happen. We'll cover some of that in the stuff that we're going to talk about. Then I do have a segment here for gun talk. We do talk about guns a little bit once in a while. Then there's some radio shows. I shouldn't have ate that apple right before the show. We got some radio shows that I listen to on a regular. We'll talk about what happened on those this week. The military interviews that are worth listening to. And then we wrap up the show with the stuff that we did this week. Now, if you're listening to us live, take advantage of that. Feel free to leave comments and stuff. And I value these live conversations or these live shows because they're conversations. They're interactive. This isn't the old television where you just had to sit down at a specific time and watch it. These happen, and then they're available at any time after. And since these happen regularly for 1,690 episodes so far, you're welcome to join in and be part of these shows. In fact, we've had people over the years that, I don't know, let us know how long you've been listening to the show. We'll find out how long people have been listening to the show tonight. If you're listening in the future on one of those podcasts, you're allowed to leave comments as well. Pick a platform that you like to listen to it on. We try to distribute the show to most of them and leave some comments. We're not such a big channel that we don't read most of the comments out there, and we reply to all the ones that, are a question or worth replying to. With that being said, after the show airs and kind of before it happens or as it happens here, we have the description. That's what we're taking a look at here on the screen. For anybody that's watching this as a video, we put that on Patreon. Our Patreon is essentially our blog. We also put it on a newsletter that gets sent out via email. You can sign up for that. And then on Substack, and that's what we're looking at on the screen right now, is our Substack blog. Right, the goal is to get this information out on a couple of different platforms. We also put alerts out on all the different socials that we're on, in order to let people know about this and all the links that we'll talk about tonight. All right, so with that being said, let's dig into the news of the week. There was a lot of it. The only things I had written down here, only things I had time to write down here this week were the ATF sounds like they're leaking a new, I guess you'd call it an executive action, to tell the ATF to require all firearm sales to require an FFL. Makes no sense unless you look at it as a political stunt, a political red herring in order to distract people and get people to divide resistance against the BS. So it's a dumb thing to happen, but it's happening now for a reason. Then we've got the Aloha Spirit happening in Hawaii. So just when you thought Massachusetts was the craziest of all positions for a state to take, you've got Hawaii and Aloha Spirit. So I don't know who's seen the best Aloha Spirit meme at this point, but I'm curious to see how many Aloha Spirits, or where the Aloha Spirit memery will go, in what directions. So like I say, there's lots of other stuff that happened this week. Trying to keep up with it is a challenge. I agree. I can thank our Patreons for making it possible for me to spend the time I do on these shows each week, but I do not have the time to keep up with all the different states back and forths and new challenges. We have national level organizations that, I'll hammer everything they see as a nail. Our national level organizations love to send lawsuits out there. And while some of those lawsuits have bear fruit, it's a shotgun effect. You have to throw, I guess they decide you have to throw a lot of lawsuits out there in order to get a couple of them to come through. I don't know if it's they can't do it strategically or it's not possible to do it strategically, but we see a lot of lawsuits out there, and that means it's a lot of stuff to keep track of. So it's a giant task. I don't know of anyone who does an actual job of not just making a call every time it happens, but also archiving it somewhere so that the knowledge can actually be used. It's a good challenge. It's something I'd like to be able to have the time to do. So anybody that does join our Patreons, our YouTube channel members, I'm not just running around going on vacations with that money. That's money spent on time to work on projects like we've done in the past with Minuteman University and some of the posters and some of the infographics to make rhyme or reason of some of this stuff. But until then, this portion of the show will suffice for that. And I didn't have a lot of time this week. But again, thanks for the those that do subscribe to what we got going on here. All right, now it's a little easier to do this part of the show where we talk about the different, essentially it's mostly YouTube stuff. Every once in a while I'll find something else, like an article, or so I'll hear something on the radio or something that's worth mentioning in the show, but I spend most of my time getting information on YouTube, so that's where most of it is from. Let's see, so getting into the Second Amendment part of it, that's my priority, so I always put that first on the show here for people that only listen to the portion of the show. This two-way stuff is at the front, and there's only one person that's really doing a majority of the positive effort right now. If you had to say who's doing the most work, it's pretty obvious it's Brooke Cheney. Everybody else is either got so many oars in the water that they're ineffective. They might be making a lot of splash, but they're not doing much or getting anywhere. Brooke is effectively kayaking her way to effect. She's creating a project on Saturdays where she helps normalize the conversation about suicide prevention and mental health awareness. So I always like to champion that show. It's probably the best thing that's happening each week consistently. Sure, there's other things that happen once in a while, and there's plenty of people that put out so much stuff that, they're going to have a home run once in a while. But Brooke is out there consistently putting out something that's meaningful and useful. First off, suicide prevention. What the fuck? The people that are committing suicide with firearms are firearms owners for the most part. We should have ultimate concern about their lives and what the hell's going on, and why can't we actually do something more effective or continue to do effective things. I don't want to suggest that nothing's been done, but to create even more awareness of this, normalize the situation, so that just like drunk driving and just like other social ills of the past that weren't solved by government, weren't solved by a nanny state, but were in fact solved by social interest, people working together to solve a common goal. Now, the antis are going to suggest that one dangerous item is to blame, and the removal of one dangerous item, along with our right to own it, is going to solve this issue. They should be challenged on that. It's so tone deaf. It's ridiculous that this many educated and interested people have spent this long ignoring the fact that they're tone deaf to the fact that suicide is the numbers that they rest all of their bullshit on. So Brooke's project is the number one thing that's happening each week. The fact that it's not being promoted on every show that's out there is kind of depressing, because really there's nothing else out there. There's a couple other organizations that get paid money. They're making money. They're getting paid money to talk about this stuff, and Brooke is out there every week doing something about it. All right, so let's keep moving on to the next thing, which is Toby over at Cape Gunworks, Massachusetts, is getting clobbered right now. We have the ability to interact with states that we don't live in. We do business in those states. We have the potential to travel to those states. We might have family or friends in those states. We can call representatives. I can show you a letter. I can show you this letter right here that was written to me by Christopher Lazone, who was a guest on Toby's show the other day. It says, "Thanks for tuning into Toby's podcast and for your support of my campaign from across the country. There are many patriots in Massachusetts, but we have been complacent for too long. 2024 is the year that changes. Sincerely, Chris." I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but this guy hand wrote this. I gave him $20, I think. So thanks to our Patreons. It's not like I gave him the money. Patreons gave him the money. But that's somebody in Massachusetts right now that is in office. Maybe he's running for office. I don't know. He was on Toby's show, and I honestly can't remember if he's running for office or if he's already holds the office. I think he's running for office. And there's something that we can do. I can throw a couple of dollars into a race against an incumbent that is anti-gun. What if 1 million people threw $10 into different campaigns in Massachusetts that were pro-gun? Would that change how Massachusetts feels about bullying their citizens? So what's happened in Massachusetts is frustrating to watch. We've seen it happen in California, but we didn't give a shit. We've seen it happen in Washington State. We were like, oh man, that sucks. We've seen it happen in Oregon because they do everything Washington does. And everybody was like, look at that. Then it happened in Nevada. Nobody gave a shit. I don't remember anybody saying anything. And then Nevada's, whatever it was, district, what are they called? The state's attorney or whatever said, oh wait, the way you wrote this law by copying it off of Washington State, it applies to Washington State, but it doesn't apply to Nevada, so we can't enforce it. But otherwise, Nevada would have the same laws as Washington State right now. And, now we're watching it in Massachusetts. Now we're watching them say, you know what? The fact that we haven't allowed them to have almost any firearms and we're the safest state out there, that we say, if we adjust the numbers to not look at actual violence, but instead number of deaths, then, we're going to suggest that it must be our crazy infringements that created these results. Let's infringe harder. And that's what's happening in Massachusetts right now. So Toby's out there trying to raise the alarm on that with some different short episodes to let people know about the speed at which it's happening in Massachusetts. Looking over here to my left over the puppy. I need to close this window. It's something I was watching on the internet earlier, and it's comments. I keep thinking it's the show's comments, and I'm like, oh, we're not getting any comments tonight. And then I look over here and I see there are comments coming in, so I'm looking in the wrong direction. So, welcome. Am I going to say this right? I think I might have heard somebody say it before, but RA, then I can't be held accountable, so I'll just say RA, just like Eduardo did. Then we got Gizzard and DJ checking in. Welcome. I have no idea what kind of week it was. 2A. I've been on a roof shoveling snow past 100 in November. I don't know if I'm reading that wrong, but I have no idea what that means. Been on a roof shoveling snow past 100 inches in November? Is that what that means? I don't know what that means either. Does that mean 100 inches of snow? Like that's a lot of snow? Sounds like a lot of snow. I live in Arizona, dude, so we don't have to worry about that. DJ's dropping a link to Brooke's channel here. Thanks. Rogaroo, is that how you say it? Hillbilly Ups out there, welcome. Oh my goodness, I still haven't sent Hillbilly that patch. I'm sorry, dude. They don't even think about it until I see you there, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta send Hillbilly that patch. I need to do something to remind me to do it when I'm actually thinking about doing it. Okay, so 100 inches total. Yeah, I got you. All right, well, so let's dig into back to Massachusetts / Rhode Island. We have the Sisters in Arms firearms story with their show, their TV show, episode number 29. They're talking gunsmithing with Sam Wells, and awesome project with two ladies on the East Coast who use a TV studio to do their Second Amendment advocacy and normalization. I don't like sports. Sports hate guns, so they hate it so much that NFL, hockey, baseball, I don't know what this one is, the blue thing that's a circle, NASCARs, I don't know what that one is either, and then basketball, literally all said, we hate guns so much and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know why people insist on paying money to millionaires. Go watch people that matter, like normal people playing sports. Anybody can play sports. You don't have to be like a dumbass millionaire to play sports. It seems like a total scam. But people like institutionalized sports and monopolies and all that shit. And guess what? They hate your rights. Oh, well, big deal. We already knew that, but they made it in writing now. People ignore that, I guess. There's a terrible situation at the border created by the Biden administration. This is from Gabby Franco, and I'm just going to play it. I don't think she'll mind.
I come from Venezuela. There are great people, wonderful people who are trying to leave the country.
Can you hear this okay?
Socialism that turned into completely chaos. Many of them are trying to come to the United States through the border. I get it. We get it. But with them, with that wave of good individuals, there's also many other individuals who are not good at all, are not only not good at all, are one of the main reasons why many people in Latin America live in Latin America. These gang members, cartels, these are brutal individuals, and they're not vetting them correctly and properly at the border, and they're just letting them in. Because, processing. What kind of processing you're doing when there are thousands of cases of American citizens who are requesting the government to let them bring their family member from from all over the world. They sit on these cases for years, sometimes a decade, before they let them in. And you tell me that a U.S. citizen who is providing all the information for their family members, they don't take priority? Somebody that you tell me that you can process these individuals that are going through the border in just a month, but you cannot process U.S. citizens' petitions in 6 months or a year, and then you have to wait almost a decade? Give me a break. So yeah, for those of you who say, oh no, but everybody who's coming through the border are good people, they are not. Flat out, they're not, okay? Many people who left our countries are leaving because there are really, really bad people down there. And guess what? They're coming up here too. I'm out.
So, I guess that was echoey or whatever. So you can go check it out if you want. But Gabby comes from Venezuela and can just trying to explain that the people that made Venezuela shitty, and the people in the cartels and stuff who just make life hell for folks who want to get out of those countries and come to a country like the United States that, we've had the Statue of Liberty and the concept that we take the huddled masses and abuse those people so that they want to leave and come here. And then those people also come along. So we can't just assume that everybody is coming over here with the best of intentions. And the reason those people left is because of heinous assholes. And if we're allowing the heinous assholes in before the people who are trying to come in the right way, it can be frustrating for folks. So, we're seeing a lot of news. There's a lot of failed policy out there and a lot of, let's just blow off the accusations about failed policy and let's get worried about the thing that we suggest is the health epidemic. Let's get worried about the thing that we say is so important. So I don't know if that's gaslighting or what the fuck that's called, but we've got that issue happening all over the place. I just was listening to a show earlier today where they were talking about, whatever, the sports. I know the sports are a massive distraction or whatever right now because it's the big game or whatever, but it's an election year, and they're going to use everything they can to avoid talking about their failed policies and the results of those failed policies. So this is where we got that ATF rumoring to require licenses. So this is back to the, what was this going back to? Was this going back to the 2002 Republican-backed bipartisan national gun control bill that was passed in 2022, where they were going to redefine, or they did redefine. Yeah, that's what I think this is from. That stupid bipartisan Republican-backed gun control that said now anybody that sells a gun for a profit, not in the business of doing, but someone who sells a gun for a profit needs to be an FFL. So a ridiculous interpretation that would more than drastically change the nature of firearms in the United States. Are they that crazy to do something like that? I guess we'll find out. I don't know how many people are talking about this one, but Armed Attorneys talked about that one. Gun Owners of America is doing this series now where they interview people in the gun industry, the marketing people from different gun companies, and then they talk about some kind of gun issue while they talk about their company. And this time they're talking to some guy who's a 3D printer who wears a mask all the time. And they were talking about the Undetectable Firearms Act, which is coming up for renewal. Every 10 years, it has to be it gets sunsetted every 10 years. They have to redo it. And unlike the assault weapons ban in 1994, that was never brought back to life in 2004, the Undetectable Firearms Act came around in 86, I think, or something, 88 or 86. And then every 10 years, it had to be renewed. It got renewed the first time, and then it didn't. Or maybe it got renewed twice, and then it didn't. And then it went 5 years, and then they brought it up again. And then they've renewed it again. So it's been renewed like 3 or 4 times in its existence, but there was like a 5-year gap where we didn't have to deal with it. It's a ridiculous fear-mongering bill or law that is essentially ignored, but it's a massive loss for our side. It's a massive loss for rights. It's a massive win for people who want to suggest that guns are the uniquely dangerous things, and that a gun that doesn't have manufacturer's marks on it is evil. And it's just a stupid. And then plastic guns are evil. So it's playing right into the fear of the ghost gun. All the foreign policy mistakes are highlighted for some of us. Oh, I missed this. Thanks for saying this. Louisiana constitutional carry is back up in Senate and House. Be sure to contact your reps in Senate if you live here. So will that make you 28? Did South Carolina just become 27? Or wait, what are we on? 26? And then were they 27 and now 28? Or am I mistaken one and is South Carolina 28? That's pretty awesome. We're really getting close to 30. It'd be awesome if Louisiana passes it this year. They almost did it last year, right? From what I understand. Or if I'm remembering correctly. All right, so that was the Second Amendment stuff. I was doing a bunch of stuff this week. I was traveling and stuff, so I didn't have a chance to listen or pay attention to as many things as I would. But now we're going to get into the gun stuff, or, less Second Amendment stuff, I suppose. And She Fires has a show every Sunday, and she did a show last week about going to tailgate parties or whatever they're called for the sports. Always good show, good group of people listening, and keeping the community going on a Sunday with a live show. Always cool. Brooke from A Great Start Shooting School, we mentioned earlier, does her firearms instruction and does quite a few videos and things talking about that or talking about instruction, in addition to the Suicide Prevention Saturday shows. So this was her going through and showing all the loot that she got at SHOT Show. Basically stuff that she's going to be using for giveaways and things for on her channels and at her school. Then we have the Armed Citizen Legal Defense Network, which is the first thing to have existed before all the quote-unquote concealed carry insurances came along, which are technically, none of them are, but they're legal protection for those who conceal carry. Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network was the first of them, and it's a completely different situation because it's a fund. It's just a bunch of people that pay into a fund, and then the fund is used to defend people when applicable. And it has a different set of rules and definitions, I guess, or whatever you'd say, compared to some of what other people would describe as self-defense insurance. And it's always, since they were first and they're different, they're not involved with any attorneys, and they're not involved with any insurance agencies. However, they work with expert witnesses, and they have a network of 500 attorneys to draw on. So you choose your attorney, they pay for it. The other insurances and stuff are all using underwriters and insurance policies. And then the alternative to them would be some sort of prepaid legal situation where you put a lawyer on retainer, and then if anything happens to you, you have a lawyer. And that's honestly, in my opinion, probably the best way to go if you were only going to do one thing. But a lawyer on retainer is going to help you to some extent, depending on what kind of situation you have worked with them, but it's going to cost you something. Where the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network is more of you pay once a year and you have access to a pool of $4 million. So I believe you can do both, but definitely different than the insurance. So to help answer questions that come up more than once, have come up over the years, come up on the regular about this situation, you have Marty Hayes, the guy who started the whole thing, doing a live, about an hour worth of Q&A talking about how they're different and what the problems are with self-defense insurance, and how Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network is different than the insurance. Not how it's different, period, but just specifically how it's different from insurance. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check it out. It's about an hour. Then you've got Chris from the 740, episode 5 of his new show, the 740 Show. Oh, snap. Skid Mark sending us a 5 Gibblebits. I think those are called Gibblebits in that country. 5 Gibblebits. Thank you very much. I think that's worth $45 in this country. They should have passed last year. The rhinos couldn't get it on the governor's desk. Yeah, I remember. There's never enough love for Louisiana, but I don't know why. Probably because there's probably not enough people down there to make a stink about it. But that's awesome. I'm glad to hear momentum there. Woods out there, welcome. Same bacon bits. You know what? This dog hasn't been paid in forever, so we're going to take a second and pay this dog off in a little bit of chicken giblets. Actually, wait a minute. Hold on. Boom. It was a super chat. This dog is legally invited as a co-host to super chat. So thanks for even though those foreign monies, he will get his chicken biscuits. Roasted chicken gizzards. And then Wood says, hashtag Bacon Bits. That's the name of this dog right here. The puppy co-host has a name. Bacon Bits. Well, Bacon is his first name. Bits is his second name. Most people just call him late for supper. All right, so thanks for that. Much appreciated. He's a big fan of getting fed. So, he's happy about this whole situation right now. He made a bunch of noises, so everybody's happy. I'm just knocking over lights and stuff. It's no big deal. All right, let's get back over to Chris's show. So, great show. Check out if you're interested in people chatting about guns, competition shooting, that kind of stuff, and a live conversation. It's always fun with a panel. Next, we get to... I haven't listened to this one yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of Forge of Freedom podcast, Alex Uli out of Indiana. And this last one, episode 99, Capitalism versus Socialism, the great... I don't know what that means. Great something debate of 1921 with Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead. So that's going to be very interesting. Or maybe some other guy, but it sounds kind of like Bob Weir. So I haven't listened to that one yet, but I did see that it popped up. I think it only popped up today. They are starting the liability insurance push again, possibly mandatory in Washington state. That is messed up, considering half the time the antis are going to push to say, oh, you can't have insurance against guns. That's crazy. That's like crime insurance. And then the other half of the time they're pushing on, oh no, you have to have insurance, otherwise you're walking around without being insured. Oh snap, another one. Right on, dude. Approximately 1.3 of them things is... See, now I have to do the math. So that means that is like $3, kind of. Right on, dude. Much appreciated. And I'm going to assume it is something like very early in the morning over there. So thanks for listening, assuming you're over there. Let's see. So then we have another one I did not listen to, but I'm probably going to listen to it. I ended up listening to military interviews twice. I do that once in a while. if I really like one, and sometimes I'll leave the room or I'm doing something outside or the dogs have to go out and I forget to pause the show I'm listening to, and I'll miss a chunk or I'll just be not paying attention to a chunk. So I'll listen to a show twice. I ended up having to do that, or ended up doing that a couple of times this week. So I haven't listened to this one, but I'm curious to check it out. It's Professor Yamane talking with some guy about some book. So I don't remember seeing Professor Yamane host an interview. So that would be interesting just on that angle. Plus, that way I don't have to read the book, maybe, if it's a good conversation about the book, right? Win. Now you can get another one. I think what happened is Hackathorn sat down with Paul Howe and they chatted for like 2 hours or something, and then they just chopped it up into these videos. So this is Hackathorn and Paul Howe talking about appendix carry. And, I don't care one way or the other, but if I'm going to listen to people complain about stuff and, whatever, I would rather listen to people who, know what they're talking about, who've been around, I don't know, thousands and thousands and thousands of shooters over decades and decades, and listen to them have their discussions. So it's kind of interesting. Plus, it's, what's that called? Clickbait or something. It's going to, he's going to get, Hackathorn's going to get a lot of people coming at him. 5:30 a.m. Right on. Milojevic? No. Liberal gun owners? No. Conversation with Dylan McLean, co-author of the book Guns and Values, with somebody named Anthony Fleming. So I don't think so. Woods is asking me a question here. All right, so after yawning, they must be getting late. After the it's only 10 o'clock when I'm filming this, so half the people listening to this are listening to it in the middle of the night or middle of the morning. Oh no, I appreciate it. Thanks. Plus it's money. So that's always good. But and like I said, I'd rather have a live show than some scripted show. Anyway, their conversations are the Wilson Combat channel. So pretty big channel, actually. One of the largest gun companies, if not the largest gun company. Maybe it's time to do that again. Maybe we should do a series of these on maybe Thursdays. We'll see how time goes. But I like to sit down every once in a while and just see what the biggest channels are, how big channels are compared to each other, see what the biggest gun rights group is, gun owners rights group is, see what the largest company, which the largest group or something, because there's like different affiliations out there. I don't really care too much about the YouTubers because they're all fighting amongst, their own little issues. But the companies themselves, that's just kind of more of an indication of how much interest they put in their online presence, so to speak. So it was interesting. Wilson Combat was the top one by far. And, that's Wilson Combat. You wouldn't necessarily think, you might think Colt or Smith & Wesson might have the resources to put into making themselves the biggest entity on YouTube, or Glock or something, that actually has a lot of things going on out there with the instruction and the competitions and the law enforcement sides and then the gun sales. But no, it's Wilson Combat, a little place out of Arkansas. Anyhow, we'll keep going. So Rollo's Rants was listening to that, talking about his favorite stuff from SHOT Show. Didn't go to SHOT Show, but made a SHOT Show video, so you don't have to go to SHOT Show to participate in everything that's going on. There's certainly enough cameras there and enough people offering opinions and stuff. You can definitely host a conversation and bring, host a discussion and bring people in. Might be a good way to kind of get the ball rolling if you're considering starting a channel or looking for a way to take your channel in a different or new direction. I've got the dog's dinner here. He's only about half done with this apple. He only eats apples and spinach. Let's see. So next is this one is S2 Underground. It's I guess I don't know if I want to call it a radio channel. They're an interesting point of view channel, I guess. They do all kinds of stuff. It's usually focused around communications or intelligence gathering, and in maybe like a shit hits the fan situation, or just in times of emergency. So having the skill sets that someone in comms or someone in intel would have, but in, again, shit hits the fan or in emergency situations. So sometimes it kind of borders on ham radio stuff. Other times it's more of just general like news gathering, investigative type of stuff. So in this case, it's a primer on improvised incident response reports, I guess. So, well, that gets into a whole bunch of stuff, but it's worth checking out if you're interested in being more organized and more studious, perhaps, about your preparations. If you consider being prepared for anything worthy of spending time on, this is an interesting channel, and this was a good kind of overview on the whole idea of being able to understand an incident. So if you think about the way emergency response would handle an incident, or the way the military or somebody would handle an incident, there's different roles, different things are going to happen in any incident that might happen. Whatever the incident is it a fire? Is it an explosion? Is it something that's an incident? Is it a riot? Is it a house fire? Like whatever the incident is, there's ways that people are going to deal with it, and you can pay attention to that and then come up with a way that you and your family, you and your friends, you and your people might prepare, so that you're not freaked out and trying to figure everything out as the incident is taking place, right? So again, preparation, collecting a bunch of rice and bullets is fun, and it's neat to count that stuff. But in reality, knowing what to do with the stuff you've collected, or even knowing what to do if you don't have stuff, is just knowledge. It's pretty, it's something to collect. It's something to understand. You don't have to memorize it, but knowing it's out there and knowing that it's something you can go recollect or get again is pretty handy. They also do, the S2 Underground also does essentially a daily kind of sit rep, a daily report of the situation in the world, both in politics and in like natural disasters and weather, and mostly negative stuff, unfortunately. Mostly it's like the news, the stuff that's going to affect, I don't know, trade or commerce or politics, unless it's something really good, like the invention of something that is going to be beneficial to the extent that it's going to change politics or trade or any of those things. But typically it's negative stuff that does that. So they do a pretty decent job of, without any politics or any slant, just offering like an intelligence report, situation report each night. Well, I don't know when it comes out. I listen to it usually days later. But it's a quick way to keep track of what's going on without having to hear a bunch of news people's agenda in there. It's good to see, and I see that Biden wants the ATF to reintroduce the ghost gun rule. Well, if we're talking the Undetectable Firearms Act, yeah. Now they're calling a lot of things. They're using ghost gun as a general bucket, like they would use assault weapon that they can just use arbitrarily. Is that the right word? To like just group any number of guns that they're scared of or they don't like at the time. So, the ghost gun means a gun that you 3D print. It means a gun that you that was never like on the books, but it also can mean something that you build out of parts or whatever. And then it can mean a plastic gun that can go through X-ray machines. And then it can mean the 80%ers and things like that. And then I forgot what the thing was that it's supposed to mean. A gun that the actual thing that it started out being was a gun that had the serial number removed or altered. So essentially, most of the times that it comes up in police or crime, it's when someone has a gun and they steal it or do something and they scrape the serial number off of it, that's what they're talking about. And they rest most of their numbers on the same way they rest most of their gun deaths on suicide. At least 56% or more of gun deaths are from suicide. So they don't want to say the 46% number, because that would sound worse. So they'll say all guns that have altered serial numbers are ghost guns. So the 3D printed ones and I guess the things that are essentially all plastic that can get through a metal detector, even those that make up a fraction, that's what they're emphasizing with this new round. And it's because, one, it's an election year, and two, that dumb Undetectable Firearms Act sunset is up in March next month. And they're going to jump all around on that as if it's more important than any of the other things that we've been chatting about. Well, that Gabby chatted about and that other people have chatted about. As far as like international spending and health and taxes and everything else. All right, so next is Mouse Party every Wednesday in the evening, just like this show. Foss from Washington State hosts a topic-free get-together. You can anyone can join into the Mouse Party if you're awake and you're interested. You can grab the link and join in, and it's an interesting conversation. 76 weeks long so far. Here's a quick video from Foss as well. I don't think there's any audio. That was him breathing on the video, by the way. Out of nowhere, we got a random chat bracket. This was on Sunday night, and the topic was late night snacks. I don't remember who won. Did pizza win? I can't remember now.
No product, but man, it should.
Gary, why don't you plug yourself? Go plug your.
For spins on.
Posted this picture. Iowa Joe.
Pizza won.
Sorry, Joe Smith.
I thought so. So, uh-oh. All right, well, I probably clicked on the wrong thing there. Now I'm clicking to find this back so we can get it back again. Oh, you know what I can do? I can play commercial. So here we go with this well-planned and timed-out commercial.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms.
Oh, you know what we'll do? Let's do this commercial. Thanks to our friend Foss for doing this one.
Captain, a vessel approaching.
On screen.
We're being hailed.
Every weekend over at GearWebsites.com, our online store, we have free Patch Friday. And that means that every order placed on our store on Fridays is going to include at least one free patch. So that's every order with no coupons, no minimum order, no codes needed. You place the order on Friday, and when it arrives to you, it's going to have at least one free patch. Your support means a lot to us, and financial support is critical. So thanks again to the people who keep us online through purchases at GearWebsites.com.
All right, and again, thanks to Foss for that, and for people that use Capitalism to help us spend time on these projects. All right. That was the butterfly knife one. The bracket one. All right, had a coughing fit. So attorneys on retainer are Mark Victor up in Phoenix area. He's also in Hawaii. And that'll be interesting to see how he deals with the situation in Hawaii being what do they call it? What do they call it when an attorney goes to court? Anyway, he's an attorney. So they have been going. They went nationwide last year with attorneys on retainer, which is an alternative to those so-called CCW insurance options. So I've been a big fan of Mark Victor, and been interested in his kind of taking his project to the national level. And then it's been interesting to watch them kind of go back and forth with USCCA and some of the other national level groups, as they called them, as Mark and this other guy is one of the people from Attorneys on Retainer who's on the show with them all the time. They've been calling out the different groups on different things, and then it turns into a back and forth. And I think USCCA lost quite a few members to Attorneys on Retainer this last year, to the point where it's gotten pretty crazy. So watching them with their completely like putting it all out there back and forth with the videos has been one thing. And now this on the 6th was the first time, I believe, that they went live. So they've taken it to live interaction and going back and forth with the I don't know what you call them, like, points of discussion with the different options for protection for legal protection for CCWs. So I didn't watch this, or I did watch it, but I was in the middle of doing 3 other things, so I haven't gone back to watch it because it hasn't interested me that much. But it is interesting to see the progression of their project and of people's interest in it. Let's see. Pizza 1, but fruit beat burgers. Here's the thing. You could have a burger and you could put a piece of pear on there or whatever. A piece of pear and a piece of pineapple. People do that probably. Alan Akers joining us. Do you still have the $5 patches going, or people missed out on that already? Skid Mark is saying, had to give you more for such an out-of-this-world commercial. Right on. Well, I'll pass that along to Foss as when I start getting some more patches made up here. Arizona's like living in Antarctica. It's more like living underwater. I'm flooding down here. It's raining all the dang time. I got so many holes in my roof. I need to buy a bunch of goop and put it up on the roof again. That's my solution, is pour more goop on my roof. Yeah, it's pretty cold. It is 47 degrees outside. If I went outside right now, it would probably, things would break off you if you weren't covered up. 47. That's how cold it is. All right, so Riding Shotgun with Charlie and Meet the Pressers got to get together and do their crossover shows, and they did kind of a marathon version of a recap where they did, I forgot how long the show was, like an hour or more. And then for 20 minutes, maybe it was an hour, for each 20-minute segment of their hour-long show, they would bring in 2 different guests to talk about SHOT Show. So it was kind of quick. I think it was either just like 6 or 8 guests. And a fun way, an interesting way, not necessarily the longest, drawn-out way, but a quick way to get a summary of SHOT Show from a bunch of different people. We got Gizzards out there doing a review of some subsonic 22 ammo. Here's the thing. You can go to SHOT Show, or you don't even have to go to SHOT Show. Just wait for Gizzard to post videos and then just play the videos on your channel and then act like they're your video. Boom. I could just make this bigger and cross out all this part, and I could act like I filmed this. Here's me filming some guy shooting this 22 ammo. I brought my dog out. My dog was sitting on the table. Gizzard gets to shooting. Okay, now I figured out what I did. So I can just click pause and not have to click now to nothing. Then our friends over at bullets for bucks. He's talking about this bullpup gun that they checked out at SHOT Show. That was my SHOT Show video. So I guess I was also going to say again, you could go to SHOT Show, or you could just wait till SHOT Show's over and then check out people that went to SHOT Show's videos. And I end up going to SHOT Show and not paying attention to anything. And then I just watch everybody's videos just like everybody else does to see what I missed while I'm looking around at the other stuff at SHOT Show. See, but you're acclimated to it. We're acclimated to the other side of that. 74. I don't know, 60 today. It was like 60 today. It's 61 in my house right now. I'm cold. Like, I would rather it be in the 70s all the time, or in the 80s even. But moving on to the radio shows. Gun Owners Radio happens on Sunday, pretty much right after She Fires. Or right, yeah, I think right after. Maybe She Fires corks Gun Owners Radio a little bit. But that's their fault for not waiting until she's done. Can you hear Mello over there? She's freaking out. I thought my chair was making a noise, but that's Mello. Can you hear her? Puppy. Quit it. I don't know if she was having a good time, but I don't know. She could have just as easily been having a nightmare. So I figure it's worth waking him up if it's a nightmare. And if it's a good time, she'll go back to sleep and have a good time again. Did like the lever guns that took the PMags. A lot of lever guns this year. Let's see. So then we had rapid fire. Mentioned Toby earlier doing the call out for people in Massachusetts to keep up with essentially what their Senate is just ramming through. The Senate just kind of changed a couple of things, but essentially, from what I understand, said we didn't change enough things to bring up another public conversation about it. We just changed a few things and then removed. Did they remove 2 pages from the bill, reworded a whole bunch of it, and then are sending it to the governor? So not a lot of options in Massachusetts, but doesn't mean that, again, a campaign, like we have a lot of national level organizations that are standing around willing to complain about 1 or 2 things at a time. What happens if, again, the whole entire country were to say to Illinois, to Massachusetts, to Washington, to Oregon, to California, quit it. Come on, man, quit it. Again, we buy stuff from there, we travel there, we can make the decision not to, and we can tell them that. And we don't ever put that into action because no one's ever at the national level encouraging that kind of, what's that called? Play of leverage? I don't know what to call that. So Toby also does a show on Tuesdays. This is Grace Curley, I guess. And she does a radio show. Toby calls in and answers other callers' questions for 45 minutes every Tuesday. They call it the 2A Tuesday segment. It's interesting because it's a group of people that are calling into a radio show that isn't about guns. So the questions are usually kind of all over the place. And while Toby does an hour-long show on the next day, Wednesday, each week, the Grace Curley show has a little different flavor to it, since the people are usually novice to guns, or at least not savvy to everything that happens, or every evolution of guns and stuff. Plus it's Massachusetts, so I mean, even if you're a gun person in Massachusetts, you're not the same as a person in a state like, I don't know, Nevada, where you could probably book for 30 minutes and be out in some kind of desert where you can shoot. Just have more opportunity in some states to shoot more. Or maybe even Pennsylvania, I don't know. But one of those states where you can just book it, or maybe even shoot it out of your backyard or something. All right, well, so gun calendars, depending on what kind of time, we're right about an hour. So give me some feedback, people that are out there. Should we dig into some calendar events this week? We've got a poll going. I'm going to use this chance to take a look at the poll. There's like 8 different ways to open the live show. I always have to figure out which one to go to.
To take a look.
All right, so the poll is underway, and we have a little bit of discrepancy on it. Oops. So how do we do this? Pull this off. Open that up. Try to make this bigger. Will that work? Will that work? I think it'll work. So scroll down a little bit. How was this week for 2A? That's the question we ask every week. See what people's, get the finger on the pulse, see what people are thinking. This week, okay, so the options are always great, good, okay, or bad. We've got 50% saying okay, 29% good, 14% great, and 7% bad. So it's interesting spread. I guess I could understand the okay, because kind of good and bad stuff happened this week. I kind of look at the potentials. That's what bugs me already. The up and downs, that's like, I don't know. It's like being on a boat or something and the waves, like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of waves, but where are we going? Like, you know what? We can sit on a boat and just sit there and talk about the weather and talk about the waves or whatever. Oh man, look at the waves. Yeah, whatever. Let's get somewhere. Maybe the waves are different when we get there, but let's get somewhere already. So when I see a week where we don't do nothing and we could have, I see a bad week. So sometimes I'm looking at the cost of the opportunity missed, the cost of that when I look at the weeks. But I haven't been paying enough attention to know what we missed out on this week. I know that Undetectable Firearms Act is only being petitioned, or what's the word? Being not petitioned, being focused on by the Gun Owners America, and they're focusing on it pretty well. They're giving it as much of attention as they give anything. But problem is, Gun Owners America, they get a lot of people that are like, "Oh, I gave my $30 to Gun Owners America." You know, they're not a necessarily big active group of people. They'd like to think they are. What is it saying? They answer good each week. It's almost always good, especially if you look at it like we could have had our legs taken out from under us. We could have had the wind knocked out of us. We could have had like been sucker punched. You know, we could have been ice picked. You know, when that stuff doesn't happen, I could see the optimist side of it. You know, it's a good week. Man, it's getting cold. We just started talking about heat. I got to turn my heater on. Hold on. They can hear. That used to be hot coffee. Tonight, we're using this Lasco. You can buy one of these on Amazon if you want. This thing has 3 or 4 different temperature settings. It can be high or low. You can oscillate it. I'm using the oscillation. I think it might have a remote. Man, that's a tower fan that you want to buy immediately off of somebody's Amazon link if you wanted. Is the sky not falling? What happens if gravity lets go? Huh? Do you ever think about if gravity lets go and the sky doesn't even have to fall? Because we're going to fly towards the sky at a rate which could be even faster than the sky could fall down. Have you ever thought about that? What's the worst recorded? I don't know what you mean. All right, so again, give us some feedback on the calendars. If we should bother with the calendars this week, I'll jump into some military interviews. So this one was super good. I have to go back and listen to this one again. I listened to a lot of these over again because, again, I'll be farting around or doing something, probably whooping a dog, cleaning up after a dog, feeding a dog, spanking a dog, beating up a dog, occasionally pulling one of the dogs off of each other when they get into a big dog fight. So I'll miss something on one of these shows. And this was a good one. So this guy went into the military just at the end of the Vietnam War and did so many interesting things up to, including, and beyond jumping out of airplanes with a nuclear bomb strapped to them. Back in the Cold War, we would have all kinds of interesting strategies to one-up or preempt, and one of those was Project Greenlight, having backpack nukes, they call them, which actually is the size of a big-ass cooler, as you can see there. But essentially a manned portable device that was a nuclear bomb that could be strategically deployed, and they kept them in Europe as a deterrent. And I guess you could have conversations about whether or not they deterred, but the Cold War ended with a lot of money being spent and a lot of technology being developed, but with very few shots being fired. Anyway, this was an interesting conversation. This guy ended up doing a lot of interesting things. His name is Bill Flavin, and I think I've heard an interview with him once before, but it was great to hear the guys from Team House chatting with them live. Again, I really value live. Anybody can script something. Anybody can do things 17 times until they sound like they really know what they're talking about. Anybody can do things, run it past friends of theirs, and like correct any mistakes that they never sound like they never sound like they don't make a mistake or whatever. It's all crap. It's all fake. So I really value the live stuff. You can just tell when somebody's able to tell you the real deal, because they're telling you the deal. They don't have to come up with it. They don't have to script it, and they don't have to edit it. But whatever. Next is making of a Navy SEAL. It's a pretty good conversation with this guy. Talk about people you might not think would end up doing all kinds of stuff that you would think different folks would be pursuing. This guy started out in a very different way than you'd expect, considering, like we just said, he's a Navy SEAL sniper. He does a lot. He ends up doing a lot more than that. And I really dig when these shows have been doing these two-parters. To some extent, it's a frustrating thing to have to wait a week to listen to the second half. But an in-depth 4-hour conversation is better than just a 2-hour conversation with a lot of these people. So this is a good one. Definitely worth checking out. Great adventure. Let's see. Then we had this guy, another good one. If you haven't heard of, well, I'm sure most people listen to this have heard of the 160th, the people that fly it's the Army Air Corps that flies people, usually Delta Force and special operations at the higher levels, to do the craziest of stuff with helicopters. So ever since the Desert One, and this guy talks about that actually, but ever since the hostage rescue that had issues in the desert back in the 80s, there's been a consistent push to make sure that our aviation for special operations has been ultimate, and they achieve that all the time. So listening to people talk about that who've been involved is always a special treat. All right, then we got our stuff that happened this week. We did a show on Tuesday about goals for 2024. I think that was a pretty good one. The one before was not that great. I did like this one, though. So hopefully you've got goals. Hopefully you're changing your goals up. Hopefully you're evaluating your goals. You can definitely spin your wheels. You can definitely do the fuck you want. But we only got so much time on this thing before our time's up. And, spending time efforting, you're spending time on the internet, you're spending time, having conversations with people. You're allowed to not do anything, but you can also do stuff. You also are allowed to do stuff, and you're allowed to have goals, and you're allowed to work towards those goals. You don't have to reach every goal, but guess what? Half the time you set a goal, you not only reach it, you far exceed it, and then you realize that you can set yourself even higher goals. I like to see that for a lot of people, especially if you're interested in having conversations about what our Second Amendment protects. We need more people out there to normalize this stuff. You can try to do that at a amateur hobby level all you want. You're definitely allowed to do that. I encourage people to do that too. But for those people that are interested in taking it a little more, dig in. Like, this is an interesting time to do it. We're going to find a lot of the exploiters are coming out of the woodwork because it's the election year, not just in guns, but everywhere. People know that there's a lot of money on the table this year. This is an excellent time to get started with a project. You're allowed to have goals, have ambitious goals. Or if something's going on, you want to have smaller goals, do it. But you're allowed to make goals. A lot easier to get somewhere if you know how many steps it's going to take you to get there. Steps are a lot more achievable than, giant leaps. And, thinking about your goals, setting them, working towards them gives you those steps. Speaking of Instagram, let's see. Yeah, goals for 2A would be awesome. There's definitely lots of things that need being done, right? I guess I was talking about both things. Woods is asking me for goals for 2A or in general. But I guess I'm saying kind of for both. But I wish I could say for 2A. I don't know how many people that listen to this have giant 2A goals. You know what I'm saying? There was once a time, but I'm not sure of that time anymore. But there's no, people can do whatever the hell they want. All right, so next we get to Instagram, 2A on IG. Every week I take a look at what's been going on the Instagram that has a focus on the Second Amendment. Guess what? Just like I'm doing here, except with Instagram. Instagram's just different. It's little photographs, it's postcards, it's snapshots. Over here, it's videos. But guess what? Videos are getting smaller, shorter. They're getting vertical, just like on Instagram. So these are not that different, but the people that use them are. Most of the time, I just did a poll over here on YouTube asking people what they thought about the different platforms. And guess what? Everybody who's on a platform pretty much likes the platform they're on. There's a couple of cross jumpers, people that like one or two or three. But for the most part, people dig one or two and stay there. So because of that, I figure it's worth, because I'm a big fan of what Instagram used to be, it's worth taking some of that stuff from Instagram and wiping it all over YouTube. For the same reason I do this show, so that I can talk about it, promote, and create awareness for projects and people that are happening over there. I would do the same, but there's just no way to do it, or at least I don't know a way to do it the other way. YouTube's too big. To shove it on Instagram would be too difficult. But it's pretty easy to take little tiny Instagram and poke it around on YouTube. One of the other things we do is a knife review of this knife right here. So it's a knife review of that knife right there. You can check that out. And guess what? You can stream live on Rumble, from what I hear. In fact, I tried that out last week. So that's what this was, me testing out the Rumble platform. Later this year, not right now, but later this year. Definitely once I get a sponsor or something. I can't take the time to do anything like that right now. But if there was a practical way to be able to take the time, then I'm curious to see what would happen is if I were to start playing with some guns over on Rumble. I'm not allowed to do that over here, so I haven't even thought about doing it over here on the YouTube. But because I really don't care about doing it, it's not my priority or nothing. But it would be interesting to try it out. I do have a couple of things that nobody else bothers to have, and I haven't played with them in forever. Again, because of the YouTube hating anybody even thinking about it over here. So we'll see. Like I say, we want to thank our Patreons, though, people that sponsor, subscribe to what we do here. Their financial support as capitalists, taking a bunch of their money and throwing it at us each month. Most of them are buying us a cup of coffee. Most of it's like $5 or less. Some people are buying us lunch once a month, so $25 a month. Whatever it is they throw at us, we put it together and it accumulates, and it gives us enough to spend the time on this. Keeps up the 3 servers that we have, which guess what? They're costing more all the time. I don't know why. It seems like prices are going up on things. Then we have a couple other bills. They're not very big, but the Patreons allow us to take some time and spend on projects like this. Maybe I'll get some sponsors at some point. I don't try to do anything too fancy over here. We're really just trying to move information around. We're on websites because we have a shit ton of websites. I'm a big fan of the internet. Been using it for a long, long time. And websites are really what makes the internet work. So what we're doing here is taking this stuff, this data, these links. Every single one of these links is a little anchor, and we're creating little places on the internet that link back to these people and these projects that matter. And the goal is to make them better, to help them out, to give them a little more reach, to let the logarithms know that people value this info. So we appreciate if you watch it live, because it gives me something to do while I'm talking about all this, and you're part of the show. You know, you're now part of this whole conversation. We definitely appreciate the podcast listeners. The majority of people that listen to this each week are the podcasters. And but you know, the reason we're doing this, the reason I do this, is because I like to spread this information around. A lot of these people don't know how, or they don't have the time to, or they wouldn't even bother. They might pay somebody like me because somebody tells them, hey, you got to pay somebody to do this for you. And I mean, I don't do it anymore, but if I had that shingle out there, I would charge them something to do this. It's not hard or nothing. You just have to do it, and it takes your time, so you do it, and you have to charge them. Some people are going to charge them arm and leg. I know of at least 2 state-level organizations that are getting bent over spending $60,000 a year to do stuff that's ridiculous, that could be done for free, could be done by volunteers for free. But you can't tell some people what to do with their money, or with other people's money, I guess. But yeah, our goal here is to do some of this effort for people that aren't able or aren't interested or ain't, aware to do it themselves. And our Patreons allow us to do that, so we do appreciate that. Maybe YouTube's deleting my Pro 2A comments. I'm not sure. Which ones are we missing? I don't really appreciate the super chats tonight. Let me go ahead and pay the co-host here. Tradition is whenever a super chat comes in, the co-host gets paid. So just so that there's no, this is tax time of year. Just so that there's no auditing being done here, we'll go with this last one. And here, would you calm down, buddy? Here, calm down. Here's the one from the last one. And then we'll go back, and just to make sure, here's the second to last one. Thank you very much. That's his way of, by drooling and eating a piece of my finger off right at the same time, that's his way of saying thank you. There's the $2 one, or the €2 one, or the pound, sorry. And then the $5 one. See how quickly that one went in there? Didn't even have a chance to bite me. He doesn't even care about biting me. He'll bite me. And then, super sticker. Thank you very much. So yeah, thanks for that. And I already grabbed these out. I'm not going to put them away. So he's going to get those 2 extra as a tip. I don't know if they tip in your country, but in this country, it's obligated that we have to pay a cheese tax. Some people pay an ice tax, but I live in the desert, so I'm not going to pay an ice tax. That's ridiculous. But in this case, a tip was applicable since I had the things in my hand anyway. But thanks everybody for joining us live. It does make the show go by, and we do appreciate it. Nobody asked to see anything with the gun calendars, so I'll just scroll down here real quick and mention that if you are interested in checking out the guncalendars.com, okay, it's not going to open for me, so I will just make a note that I need to make that an actual hyperlink next week. But guncalendars.com is our one of our websites where we post a calendar. What do you know? Of all the stuff that's coming up. The Great American Outdoor Show is wrapping up, so this is the last weekend for that. Looks like some anniversaries of things happening in Michigan. The firearm suppressor was patented in 1912 this week. The 1911 is patented this week. Arizona became a state this week on Valentine's Day. It's also Valentine's Day. We got the couple of different conventions coming up, and a couple of anniversaries of people either being born or passing away. And it looks like next weekend we have the Ambassador Academy kicking off in Florida. Oh yeah, our rally is next Saturday as well here in Arizona for everybody who might be going to that. Oh, I guess I could have been actually showing you the screen over here that I've been looking at the whole time instead of watching my dog lick himself in places that he shouldn't be doing as the co-host. I'd like to apologize to any very old dogs who might have been watching this dog be inappropriate, or any little puppies that didn't know the dogs would do that kind of horrible thing. Dog is being gross. So, yeah, so you can go over to guncalendars.com and check out that kind of stuff if you want. And in addition, we've got the rallies and other industry events and big time shoots and other things listed there as well. That'll be the end of this one. We'll wrap it up. Tomorrow is Saturday, and depending on if Tony's available, we'll attempt to have our Ask Gun Question show. And Brooke Cheney already has her Suicide Prevention Saturday set up. We'll look forward to joining everybody in the comments of that one. And Hillbilly Up typically has a Saturday evening show. Might want to check that one out if you haven't heard of it. And then we are entitled to an overnight on Saturday night. So this time tomorrow, 24 hours from today, we can expect to be bedazzled by a DM Foss production of The Overnight, a bi-weekly show that expands our universe of live conversations to a point where a lot of us never even realized live conversations could be like that. It's a must-see. All right, well, we'll put this apple here so the dog can finish eating his apple, and then we'll wrap up the show. I think we already did a commercial, didn't we? Oh, we're going to do another commercial just because I can't remember if we did the commercial or not.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.